They didn't know English, they didn't know the language, they were just going to this place, not knowing anyone and not knowing if they'd see their families again, and most of them never did see their families again. Most of my mother's family, except for her immediate family, were killed. So my parents, my dad grew up in a very small village in Germany, and my mom grew up in Vienna, Austria, and they met when they came to the United States. I think my mom dated Americans, but I think they both wanted to marry someone who had a similar experience and spoke the same language, and so they met and got married. Hitler came to power in 1933. My father was living in Germany, obviously, at the time. And when the Nazis came to Germany, when Hitler came to power, Germany was like his laboratory for, establishing all the rules. So instead of just having those laws applied overnight, it was like a gradual tightening of the noose. And so, I don't know in what order, but you got kicked out of school, that you lost your job, you couldn't travel on public transportation, etc., etc. His family managed to get out in 1938. They were able to take a fair number of possessions with them. Before he left, he photographed the synagogue. They burnt it down on Kristallnacht, and now there's a playground there. This village, I know a lot of German Jews were pretty assimilated and reformed, but in this village they were pretty Shomer Shabbat, kosher. Mom was in Vienna, and the Nazis came in 38. So pretty much my mother described it as everything changed overnight. Hitler marched in with them that day, and huge parade, thousands of people adoring him. It was crazy. You were thrown out of school, you had no job, you weren't allowed on public transportation, you couldn't go to public parks, you couldn't go to the movies. They were only allowed to go shopping after everyone else had gotten their groceries. She said some of their neighbors would leave baskets of food in front of their apartment, and then they were forced to move. They moved once, they moved twice, whatever. My uncle was on the kinder transport. Was a way of getting children out of Germany, Austria, I believe, Czechoslovakia, and going pretty much to Great Britain. Who had no idea where they were really going. He had to go to work. He worked in a leather tanning factory, which was not fun. They didn't know English, they didn't know the language, they were just going to this place, not knowing anyone and not knowing if they'd see their families again, and most of them never did see their families again. My family was lucky. They were reunited. To escape, you had to have three things pretty much. You had to have a visa from the American consulate. You had to have a quota numbers. You needed a low enough number that you'd be admitted. And then you needed a sponsor in the United States who would say, yes, I can support this family. So my grandmother was pretty much the brains behind the operation. They had some distant cousin who we found agreed to be a sponsor. Grandma got the visa, and they were lucky enough to get a low number. My grandfather's brother, who they encouraged to do the same thing, procrastinated, did not get a low number. He, his wife, and his two kids perished. I brought in my grandmother's passport. It has the Nazi swastika. So here on the top line, it asks you for your nationality. And if you were Jewish, what you had to fill in was staatlos, which means stateless, which means you're not a Austrian citizen, you're nothing. You have no state. And then in the back is her visa from the American consulate. They left on a train on February 5th, 1940, and as my mother said, it was a train and no one knew where they were really going. But they took the train to Trieste in Italy, and from Italy they came to the United States.